So what you're looking at now then is Embellish Maker. So it opens up here with this blank screen. I haven't opened a work screen or anything yet. So on this column here, this is all of our toolbars. So this is kind of anything we want to create or draw or anything like that is going to be in this column here. On this side, we're going to have our properties window. So that shows you when you want to change like density of stitches or type of stitching or anything like that, that's in that properties. And then sequence here will show us all of our different steps. So your thread changes and things like that will show you there. And then along the bottom here, we have our color palette. So up here, I have it set to Embellish Matte Thread because that's what I've been using. But if you own a different embroidery thread, you could also set it to, I think it's got pretty much every brand of thread under the sun on here. So you can set it to that. And then, so if we go to Floriani, now it's going to show me all the Floriani colors and I can design with that. So you can change that palette to be whatever you want to sew with. And then here is just a run. We can actually show it how the machine would stitch it out. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to start a new design file. So now I've got my grid on here. I've also set it to inches, but you're able to change that if you would prefer to reckon metrics. You can get rid of the grid and just have a blank space, however you like to work. So first thing I'm going to show you is how easy it is to make chenille in Embellish Maker. So I'm going to go to open here. And I've got this design. This is actually one of Hope Yoder's designs on her door stopper CD. But instead of stitching out a door stopper, I'm just going to make a chenilled flamingo that we can put on a shirt. So you can see it's showing me a preview of my design here. And then if I click on, so convert to outline, anytime you want to make changes to the design, like making it chenille, making it mylar, deleting some of the stitches, you want to convert to outline because what we have here is an embroidery file. So my machine reads PES, so that's the file type I have here. But that's not a working design to edit. That's just a design that your machine would stitch out. So this convert to outline changes it to something that we can edit and work with in the software. So we'll hit open. Okay, so then we've got the flamingo design here, and you can see here that sequence panel is open. So this shows me each of the different color changes. You can see because we did convert to outline, so if I make this is the little eye there. If I open that up, it's going to show me it's actually broken that down into quite a few different stitches. So it won't matter for this. It's just something first when I did it, I was like, what is it doing there? But it just, because of the way it converts to outline, it breaks all those down into stitches. When I went and stitched that, it did it all as, a regular stitch out, just the way you expect it to. So first thing I'm going to do, because if I'm going to put this on a shirt, I don't really need this outline block. So I'm just clicking on it. I'm hitting delete. I'm going to delete that other block. I'm going to delete that background quilting, that final stitch out, because we don't need any of that if we're just making a shirt. Those were if you were doing it as a door stopper. And then you can see, so this original design was an outline. You see here it's got the placement stitch, the tack down, the satin stitch. So I'm going to get rid of one of those steps, and I'm going to get rid of the satin stitch at the end. So now I have a pretty naked looking flamingo there. But I'm going to turn that into chenille. So I want to click on just that flamingo, and then I'm going to go over here to convert, and I'm going to click on the chenille button, and it's automatically create chenille. So now here I have my placement stitch, I have my tack down stitch, and I have my chenille. So it did all that for me in one quick button. We got all of those steps. And in the properties window here, you can make a few changes to this. So right now my chenille is going this way. You can also change that angle. And then you always, anytime you change anything there, the change doesn't happen automatically. You have to hit apply up here. So we'll hit apply. So now we had our chenille running the other way. Obviously for this flamingo, that is not going to work very well because that's a pretty long lines of chenille. So for this design, it's better to have the default version. So you can also change, if you want to change any of your stitch runs, anything like that, you can change the size in here. So if you want your flamingo to be an exact size, rotating, anything like that. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen with you, and we'll go back to video here, and I'm going to show you. So this is that chenille design. So you can see this was what the original design was with the applique. And then here, I've made it chenilled. So you can see it first does that placement stitch, then the tack down. So this fabric is fabric with repositionable webbing on the back. So what that does is you iron that on one side. When you peel the layer away, then you get a sticky layer. So you can kind of hold it in place temporarily. And then I stitch that down, trim away the extra around that tack down, and then iron it in place so that layer won't move at all. And then I'm adding 3 layers of fabric here, and then it's doing those chenille stitches on there. So those are just a straight line stitch, you know, a little ways apart. And then we'll take our chenille cutter tool here. So this is rotary cutter blade, but it has that plastic guard. So you can slip it right under those and easily stitch through them. And then I just took a chenille brush. So this is just a wire stiff brush, and roughed up that fabric, and that gives you that chenille look. So you can do that on some of Hope's designs come with that if you're buying a new embellished CD, or you know, any embroidery designs you have at home, you can easily convert those in the software and make your own chenille. So another one, I showed you that with the changing the direction on there. So this is a pot holder I did. This is on Hope Yoder's Critter pot holder CD. So this was how the design originally came. And then I added chenille, and this was my first time using the software, and I didn't realize you could change the direction. So you see here, it's really nice, the short chenille. And then on this side, I did not change the degree, so I got really long chunks of chenille. So doesn't look as great as once I rotated the one side, now we've got the chenille going opposite directions on either wing. So looks much better on that last one. So that's chenille. Does anybody have any questions on chenille or questions on the software yet? All right, well, let's look at some Mylar. So I'm just gonna create a new file again. And this time I'm gonna open a little penguin. So this is actually off of the Hope Yoder CD for making hot and cold packs, but it's a super cute little penguin. So again, I'm just gonna get rid of a few of these extra things we don't need. And I'm holding down the control key, and then I can select multiple items at the same time and get rid of them. Okay, so then we've got just our basic penguin here. So I'm gonna click on, and we're gonna put Mylar in his stomach. So if you haven't worked with Mylar before, you can't just use it as a normal like appliquing fabric, because it is a thinner material that if you put it down without any stitches, it would just rip away and fall apart. So you need that stitches over the top to hold it in place. So I'm gonna go over here, this is our Mylar button. I'm going to click on that, and now it's automatically added. We have our placement stitch, our tack down, all of our Mylar stitches, and then a satin stitch around the edge to secure that. So you saw how quick that was to add all that Mylar in. So then I'll show you. Let's stop our screen share again for a minute. And I'll show you, so here's our Mylar penguin. So you can see on the top here was that original applique. So we just had white in his stomach. And then here we've got it stitched out our placement stitch. Then we laid our Mylar down and did the tack down. So that's just to hold it in place. but you want to leave that on there till after you do the Mylar stitch. So now we'll put the Mylar down and we'll do all of those stitches on top and then tear it away, and then you can do the remaining stitches on there. So now you get that extra little glisten in his stomach. So a fun little thing to add to any of your designs. And we've got here, so Mylar just comes in the one color because you can change the color based on what fabric you're putting underneath or what stitches you're doing on top. So this is one of the Mylar sheets. It comes 3 of these in a package. So the Mylar will get you quite a few different designs. And you can see even, I think right now it looks like it's kind of pink in the video. If I hold it different ways, it looks a little more green. So kind of all different. And the sheets are 18 by 30. So it's a good amount of Mylar that you're getting in each package. So you can do quite a few designs. Thanks for joining us, Hope. I saw Hope Yoder is actually with us today. She just commented in the chat there.
Hello, you're doing a great job.
Thank you. Okay, so let's open up another design and let's look at, we're gonna talk about text and puff foam and stuff like that. So in our little text box here on the side, we can add text. So I'm just clicking the button to add text. All right, sorry, my computer's just being a little slow here all of a sudden. There we go. Okay, so in here, we're gonna go to the properties, and this is actually where you edit any of your text. You can see it comes in just saying my text. We click over on the side here in the properties, and we're just gonna write out some text. You see nothing is happening yet on my screen there, because again, nothing happens till I hit that apply. So I'll hit the apply. And then we'll be able to see our text in there. And we also can, if you just hit the enter key, you can add a second line, so however many lines of text you want on your screen there. And then you've got some other options in here. There's a ton of different built-in fonts here. So that's this whole menu here, some nice little fonts if you're doing smaller text, and then a bunch of other fonts as well. So lots of options there. And you can see it previews what they look like there. If I hit this little question mark, that's gonna show me what characters are actually in there. And then it's also gonna show recommended heights. So the minimum height you should make your text and the maximum height. So that gives you a good idea of, you know, if you create something on the screen, it may look great, but if I make this, you know, 3 inches tall, it's probably not gonna stitch out as well because that's greater than that maximum height recommended. And then we also can change, you've got some alignment options. So if you want to change how the text is aligned, you can do that in there as well. And then what I think is really fun is we can do automatic puff foam. So, you know, if you think about those hats that are really trendy that have the little bit of dimension under the font embroidery, or on sweatshirts, things like that, we can add puff foam to this. So in this list, you see some fonts have a little O by them and some don't. So the text that has the O for outline is what you want to use for using puff foam. So we've got that on there, and then we want to change, there's where it says puff foam capped ends. So let me show you on here, we're gonna zoom in so you can see the end of this font. I'm just going to use my little magnifying glass and zoom in. So you can see right now on here, it's just a zigzag satin stitch. So that's going to stitch out great if you just want to type, you know, regular letters and embroider them. But if you want to do puff foam, that puff foam is going to pop right out on the ends and you're not going to get a nice look. So you need to change and add this puff foam capped ends. So we're going to click that. You can see it automatically changes the density. And then it tells you how wide that end cap is. So if we hit apply, watch closely on there, and you can see right now we're at 4,461 stitches. When I hit apply, so our stitch count automatically jumped up there, and then we also, you can see now there's these little caps on the end of each letter. So that's going to keep that puff foam all encased. And this right here, when I did it, so the foam comes in either a 2mm or a 6mm. And when I stitched on the 2mm, this looked great. On my 6mm, I didn't have quite enough coverage. So on that one, I went in and I changed my density so I would have a little closer stitching. And then I also increased that end cap. So you can see, really easy to make those changes. We'll hit apply. And then now we've got some denser stitching and a longer cap on the end there. So that's just something you might need to play with a little bit so that you get that nice coverage when you stitch it out. So I'll show you here. This is that puff foam. Now hopefully if I hold it on the side here, you can see here's that 2mm, so a thinner puff, and then we've got the 6mm here, which gives you a nice thicker amount. So with puff foam, you lay your foam right down, stitch over it. Then after it's done all the stitching, then you can tear it away. And because you have all those places where the needle punctured the foam, it tears away super easy. But you can see on this one, I still have little bits where I'm seeing the gray foam. Hopefully you can see that on the camera. So I just used a heat gun and ran it over the top, and that shrinks the foam just a tiny amount that you're able to, you don't see any of the foam there. So, and the foam comes in a pack. You get white, gray, and black. So depending on what color lettering you're doing, what fabric, you may want to use a different color. So you get 3 2mm and you get 3 of the 6mm in that package in each of the colors. Any questions anybody's having yet? All right, well then let me show you. So that's some of just those individual things we can do. And I'm just going to close a few of these so we don't slow down the computer as much. Okay, so now what I'm going to show you is, I had this design that I had purchased from another site, and it's all applique. So all raw edge applique, which isn't always my favorite design. I really like the design, but I don't necessarily love the raw edge aspect of it, because then you have those loose threads. So I thought, well, what can I do in Embellish Maker to change it up and get rid of a lot of that raw edge? So I used quite a few different techniques in Embellish Maker, quite a few of the different keys in Embellish Maker to change that up. So on the tree, and I'll show you in the properties here. So this original design was actually linked, the tree and the golf bag there were linked as one design. So I just want the tree. So I'm just gonna click on that. And I made that one chenille. So we'll click on that, and now, just like before, it automatically added all 3 of those. So now we have chenille on the tree. Then on the golf bag, I went and there's a fun, it's called color blend. So you click on this and it's automatically going to add 2 different colors of stitching. So then I'll go down in my color palette here. I'm clicking on that and it's giving me the option, do I want that to be color 1 or color 2? So I'm going to have that be color 1. So that just changed, you can see here, it changed the bottom of my golf bag. And then I'm going to go to a really different color so you can see that difference. Just scrolling down so we can get to the brighter. There we go, yellow, that'll be perfect. So we'll click that on color 2. And then if I click off of that, you can see it automatically changes those so the one color blends right into the other. And if we hit 3D up here, you can see that even better with the actual stitching. So then on the top of the golf cart here, I wanted that to just glisten a little bit. So I'm going to click on just that, and I'm going to add some Mylar there. So now again, we automatically got all of those different, the tack down, the placement, the Mylar stitches, all of that in one click on there to create Mylar. Then in the bottom of my golf cart here, so on there, I use the motif fill. So we're going to click on that button. And then we're going to go into properties here. So you can see a motif fill, it gives you a white background with a design over the top. So or I guess not white, whatever your fabric is underneath, that's what you're going to see. And it's going to fill it with stitches. And you look, these are all the different stitches that these come built in Embellish Maker, all these different motifs. So we'll scroll all the way down, 200 different motif fills that you can use to fill up that space. So on my golf cart, I happen to use 183. So see, and I like that design, but I wanted it to be a little bit bigger. So you saw a little bit more of the design. So I can go down here to pattern size and change that to be bigger. And now we've got the design a little bit bigger on there. So it automatically filled that space for me. I also went down to the tires here, and that one I'm going to use Fancy Fill. So the difference with that is Fancy Fill fills the whole thing up with stitches. So you don't have any of that background fabric, you just have stitches. And you can see this one, especially when I just had it, you know, the working file, you couldn't really tell, it just looked like a lot of stitches. But if you change it to 3D, then you can really see what that Fancy Fill is going to look like. So again, there's a ton of different fill options there, 197 on there. So lots of different fill options that you can use. So, and then this one, again, I played with the scale just a little bit, so it would be a little bit bigger on there. So you can do lots of different things changing the scale there. And then our seat here, so this is already filled in with satin stitches, but you do have the option, there's a few different fills you can use on the satin stitches there. So here, I changed that one up just a little bit too. And now I feel like it looks like a little bit more of a quilted seat, so a little bit funner on there. So when you're ready to, I realize I haven't talked about putting this on your machine at all. So what we're creating right now, I'll go up to File and Save As. You can see it automatically wants to save it in a WAF file. So this is your working file. So I would recommend anything you're working on, you save it in that file first. But you can't put a WAF file, your machine won't know how to read that. So when you're ready to embroider it out, you want to go and pick whatever your machine is and have it save it as that file so that your machine can read it. If you just save it as your machine file, so like mine is PES, I went and embroidered it out and then realized, oh, you know, I didn't like how that stitching, you know, the stitching on the seat looked or something, and I wanted to redo that. You need that WAF working file to make it easier to make those changes. So that's why you want to save it in both file types while you're working on it. So I'll show you, here is, so this is that original design that I stitched out just with the regular applique. And then here is the one that we just, where I did all those edits. So added the chenille on the tree, the mylar roof, the color blend, all those different fills. So you can really change the look of the design depending, you know, using all those different features in Embellish Maker. And I realized the one other thing I was going to show you on there. All right, now it's giving me a little hard time sharing my screen. Did you click on anything different over there, Mom? You want to try logging out for a minute? Sorry, I'm just having a little technical difficulties here. Yeah. Well, I don't know what's changing. It thinks I'm a participant instead of the host. And I want to show you guys how much fun and easy it is to add rickrack. Try actually, can you leave the meeting? I think so. Yeah, somehow you made yourself the host. Yeah, try it. Oh, good. Thanks, Lisa. All right. She's the one that told me that she made you as host, that you made yourself host. Oh. She chatted that. Okay, so now let's look at rickrack. And this is really Mom's favorite feature. She's done a few different, you can be done. She's done a few different projects that we're going to show you. So what I went into now into design, so this is where, before I was doing convert, so that meant that I already had an embroidery design that we were changing. But for this, I'm just gonna make rickrack. So I'm starting with nothing. So I need to go in design, and I've just clicked on line. And so I'm just gonna draw a line. And I have it set right now to snap to grid. So I can make my line a little crooked, but it automatically straightened it out for me. And then since now I have something on the screen, I can go to convert, and I'm gonna click on the rickrack button, and it automatically created rickrack for me. So what's fun about this is, we have some rickrack in the shop, but we don't have every color you're ever gonna need. Now you can create your own. So you've got some, this, when it stitches out, is about a mini rickrack. So we can also change the width on our rickrack and make it wider. 410 might be a bit much. So we can make that wider. We also, so this rickrack, you would stitch right on something. But sometimes you want just freestanding rickrack that's not attached to anything. Well, you can go in underlay stitching. So this is that stitching that's underneath the other stitching. And we're just gonna click a couple buttons, contour and zigzag, and that's automatically gonna add a bunch of stitches underneath. So you see, this is another interesting one. If we look, 1,876 stitches is where we're at now. We hit apply, tons more stitches. And so now it's added a bunch of stitches underneath there. And now we have freestanding rickrack that we can stitch out on some water soluble stabilizer and just use it as straight rickrack. You also, again, you could change the width over here if you wanted to. You also can, if we go over to shapes here, we'll just make a little hexagon. We can even make rickrack in shapes. So now we've got a hexagon with rickrack. So you can add rickrack to shapes. You can do just straight rickrack, a couple different options there. So I'll show you. There we go. Oops. Okay, I want to get back so I could see myself, so I could see what you see. Okay, so this is a little bracelet I made. So this is just foil on Deco Magic Light. And then I've added some rickrack and some little crystals, and it's a little double wrap bracelet. So I did the same thing with fabric and Deco Magic. I like the glitz of the foil, but the fabric is fun too. But you can see this Deco Magic Light is just a really flexible, so it wraps right around your wrist there. So that's where I stitched rickrack right on the foil, right on the fabric. So you stitch that straight out. We also did this little unicorn. Well, Mom made this little unicorn, but isn't that adorable with all his little rickrack hair? So that's all freestanding rickrack. So she stitched it out on the embroidery machine. So you can see wide variety of colors because she used lots of different threads. So it perfectly matches her fabric here. And you've got that fun freestanding rickrack. And then we've got a little doll dress here. So this one we use the rickrack both ways. So on the bottom here, it's stitched right on the edge of her dress. And then here we've got a little piece that was stitched out freestanding and then sewed on the dress top. So the rickrack is super fun, and I love that then you can have it in every color you want. You can see all the projects we used today were stitched out using the Embellish matte thread. So I think it's fun. You get, normally you have the kind of sheen of the polyester or the rayon, and I really like how that matte stitches out and how that looks. So you can buy individual thread colors, or if you are like, oh, I just don't even know where to start, what color threads do I buy? We also have a set. So this is the top 30 Embellish matte thread colors. So you can get one set, and that'll give you a good variety to get started. And that set is $133.99. So a good way to get yourself a good variety of colors. It's got all the basic colors, and get started with matte thread. So I'm just gonna go back. So those are kind of what I see as some of the features that make Embellish different. But there are a lot of other great features as well. So I'll just show you, not gonna do full demos on there, but we'll just kind of look through. There is an auto digitizing wizard on here. So if you have clip art that you wanna turn into a design, you can do that in Embellish Maker with a few clicks. You also, there's lots of built-in shapes here. It's just taking a minute to open up. So built-in shapes that you can use for designs. There's the library here. So different monogram borders. You can do embossing in a couple clicks. The cross stitch. I'm gonna fill this guy up. So you can fill it with cross stitches. You can do turn a design into applique. So that there shows you, it automatically adds the different applique steps there for you. So lots of fun things you can do in here. One of the other things I really like about Floriani software in general, and also Embellish Maker, is that you get lifetime updates. So like when this software first came out, Rick Rack was not included. They added that as an update. Everybody who already owned it got that. So you're not buying new software every couple of years when they come out with something fun. You're automatically getting that, getting those updates for free for life. So that's a really great feature on there. The